Uh, I believe what led to SatAM's downfall is not just, everything, like Ben Hurst, everything that, Ben Hurst said in his interview on the DVD. But I think it had to do with some other things as well. Um, I believe that, one of the major things that led to SatAM's downfall was the fact that, and I mentioned this earlier, because of my personal experience, was the fact that if you lived on the West Coast, you couldn't watch it as much, especially during the fall season. Because during the fall season, ABC on the West Coast stations of ABC would always every now and then would have something planned on set, have a sporting event or some kind of presidential event planned for that Saturday. So if like a college football game was scheduled to air at 9 o'clock Pacific, then that means all the shows, including SatAM, would be moved an hour or two earlier. And SatAM, like I mentioned earlier, was originally, was originally scheduled to air at 7:30, but because of these sporting events and presidential events, was always moved 2 hours earlier, up to 5, maybe 5:30 in the morning, sometimes 6. And again, for me, it made it difficult because sometimes I would try my best to turn on the TV and watch the show, but then I'd be told to go back to bed. And sometimes I'd try to sneak out into the living room or the kitchen and try to turn it on, but be caught and told to go back to bed. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that lived and currently lives on the West Coast that dealt with that. Excuse me, there's a fly going around. But I'm not the only one that dealt with that. I'm pretty sure that there was other people growing up that dealt with it too. To me, it's like if you lived in the Midwest, perhaps the Mountain Time Zone, and most importantly on the East Coast Time Zone, you were able to see the series. On the West Coast, you couldn't, but Mountain, Midwest, and East, you were. That was the unique thing about it. You were able to watch the show as it originally aired and during its original time. There was nothing blocking it. There's nothing interrupting it. You were able to watch it at the time it was originally scheduled. And to me, I always thought, if ABC wanted to, the local stations on the West Coast of ABC wanted to, they could have easily, knowing that Sonic was probably the most popular show they had on Saturday mornings, could have easily left it the way it was. And yes, there were times they did, but most times they didn't. Because as Ben Hurst, and to quote what he said, they were being bounced around, if you will. They were being bumped around a lot because of these events, because of these sporting and presidential events. So you couldn't really watch the show the way you wanted. And that's what, to me, caused it to fall in the ratings, because one of the strongest television viewing ships that television has, that any network has, is on the West Coast and the East Coast. Midwest and Mountain Time Zones, Central Time Zone in the Midwest and Mountain Time Zones, those are strong too, because the shows don't really have to move around that much. But the West Coast and the East Coast are your strong viewing areas for television, for networks. And when one area has to preempt or move a show to an hour or two earlier in the morning, or something like that, or at a time you can't watch it, it hurts that show. It hurts its ratings. So for SatAM to lose a lot of ratings, especially during the second season, it wasn't just due to the fact that the Power Rangers won at the same time. it was due to the fact, as Ben-Hur said, that they were being pushed around, bounced around, and mainly being pushed and bounced around on the West Coast, because on the West Coast, you know, all those sporting events and presidential things and whatever were aired at 9 o'clock. So, unless, like I said, unless you lived in the Mountain Time Zone, Central Time Zone, or East Time Zone, you couldn't watch Sonic SatAM at the regular time. You had to basically get up as early as you can, and if it was all right, watch it at 6 o'clock, 5:30, or 5 o'clock in the morning. And that was it. And that's why that's why I also believe that later on, the West Coast ABC stations would start airing an hour's worth of Sonic SatAM, because they knew fans wanted to catch up on it. And not miss an episode. I believe that's why they started doing that, because of what happened. But yeah, in my honest opinion, I believe that SatAM's downfall wasn't just because of everything Ben-Hur said, from the Power Rangers to the new people coming in at ABC, and using the saying "Prickle A down, new broomsticks clean." I don't think it was none of that. I mean, it was a lot of that. Correction, it was a lot of that. But it wasn't just all of that. But I also believe, again, it was because ABC lost a lot of strong viewership for the show on the West Coast when it had to be moved to those earlier time slots. And that's why, to me, I firmly believe that was one, if not the major reason, besides all the others, why SatAM, had its downfall and was canceled in the long run. I truly believe that.